and Shanti mantras. Om Shanno Mitra Sham Varunaha Shanno Bhavat Varyama Shanna Indro Brihaspatihi Shanno Vishnurukramaha Namo Brahmane Namaste Vayo Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahmasi Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahma Vadishyami Ritam Vadishyami Satyam Vadishyami Tanmam Avatu Tadvaktaram Avatu Avatu Mam Avatu Vaktaram Om Shanti 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 Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai Om Shanti 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 Yas Chandasa Mrishabho Vishwarupaha Chandobhyodhyamrita At Sambabhuva Samendro Medhaya Aspranotu Amritasya Devadharano Bhuyasam Shariram Me Vicharshanam Jihva Me Madhumattama Karna Abhyam Bhuri Vishruvam Brahmanav Koshosi Medhaya Pihitaha Shrutam Me Gopaya Om Shanti 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 Aham Rikshasya Reriva Kirtif Prishtam Gireriva Urdhupavitro Vajiniva Swamritamasmi Dravinagum Savarchasam Sumedha Amritokshitaha Itirtishankor Vedanu Om Shanti 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 Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Apyayantu Mama Angani Vakpranaschakshuhu Shrotramatho Balamindriyani Cha Sarvani Sarvam Brahma Upanishadam Maham Brahma Nirakuryam Mama Brahma Nirakarot Anirakaranamastu Anirakaranam Me Astu Tadatmani Nirateya Upanishatsu Dharma Te Mai Santu Om Shanti 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 Vang me manasi pratisthita Mano me vachi pratishthitam Avir ma edhi Vedasya ma'ani isthaha Shrutam me ma prahasihi Anenadhitena Ahoratran sandadhami Ritam vadishyami Satyam vadishyami Tanmam avatu Tadvaktaram avatu Avatu mam Avatu vaktaram Avatu vaktaram Om Shanti 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 Bhadram no apivataya manaha Om Shanti 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 Bhadram karnebhihi shrunuyama devaha Bhadram pashyema akshabhiryajatraha Sthirairangaistuštuvagum sastanubhi Vyashema devahitam yadayuhu Swasti na indro vriddhashravaha Swasti nah pusha vishvavedaha स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। यो ब्रह्माणं विदधाति पूर्वं यो वै वेदांश्च प्रहिणोति तस्मै तं ह देवमात्मबुद्धिप्रकाशं मुमुक्षुर्वै शरणमहं प्रपद्ये। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Shall we begin the new year with a nididhyasanam? So please let's do some meditation. ॐ प्रातर्स्मरामि हृदि संस्फुरदात्मतत्त्वं सच्चित्सुखं परमहंसगतिं तुरीयं यत्स्वप्नजागर सुषुप्तमवैति नित्यं तद्ब्रह्म निष्कलमहं न च भूतसङ्गः। I pray to Ishvara that I may have the power to make a distinction between my Swarupa and my Swabhava. I pray to Ishvara that may he grant me the ability to distinguish between the Swarupa and Swabhava. Swarupa means my own nature, my intrinsic nature, and Swabhava means my incidental qualities. May I see the distinction between these two. May I see that any golden ornament such as a bangle has both Swarupa and Swabhava. The Swarupa is gold, unchanging, secure, never having a beginning. Whereas the name and form of a bangle is an incidental quality which arises out of the gold, is always supported and is resident in the gold and may dissolve back into the gold. The Swabhava has a beginning and an end, and even while it is there, it could have changes. I pray to Ishvara to grant me the ability to distinguish my Swarupa from my Swabhava. May I reflect upon the words of Ishvara through the Vedas, that anything that I cognize is my Swabhava. From the very seer of the world, the experiencer of the world, all the way to the world itself, the experience world, is Swabhava. I can validate the words of the Vedas through my own experience. I can validate that I, the Jiva, the experiencer of the world, had a beginning. And is continuously changing. And it is well known that the Jiva will come to an end. Similarly, the world comes and goes. In deep sleep, it seems to go away. On waking up, it seems to come back. During my experience, it also is continuously changing. May I reflect upon my ability to identify that the entire experienced world is Swabhava. Totally different from that is my Swarupa. I see that like the bangle that is never apart from the gold. I see that my Swabhava is never apart from me, the Swarupa. And like the example of the gold, I find the words of the Vedas valid, that I, the Chit Swarupa, the Sat Swarupa, the Ananta Swarupa, is never born. Like the gold, I remain the same, unchanging. can see that being unborn and being here now, it is not possible for me to go anywhere. It may be that my acceptance and understanding of my Swarupa will take some time. But I cannot deny the truth of my Swarupa. In this beginning of the new cycle of a year, may I pray to Ishvara to give me the power and the ability to keep this distinction between my Swarupa and my Swabhava. And may He grant me the wisdom of keeping this distinction clear as I go through this life. Thank you, Ishvara. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So with this session, I wish you all a very, very happy and peaceful 2021. So it is very natural for us to welcome such landmarks as the changing of the year, and so on, with making some resolutions. Very, very natural and very right thing to do. So we need to understand the importance of making resolutions. So in Vedanta, in Vedas, really in all Vedas, the resolutions are called tapas. So tapas means, it can mean in various shades, starting with austerity, denial, some problem, some trouble. And it could also mean on a more softer version of tapas is called discipline. And of course those two are similar, because discipline also means a denial of something. Like for instance, you may want to have some dessert, but for whatever reason, if you deny a sugary dessert through your own discipline, then that is called a tapas. So really a resolution that you make is a form of tapas. This is what it is. And of course, we make our resolutions at various times of the year, and also the beginning of the year. We all do, I do too. Just to give you my own personal story, in the last 2-3 months or so, I made 2 resolutions. So one resolution was that I will resort to keeping a greater distance between dinner and breakfast. This is what is called interval fasting. So several of my friends have told me that this has been very effective for them in improving their health, their sugar content, and so on. So about a couple of months ago, I decided, I will try it. And so I made a resolution, and I'm following through with it so far. And I think I don't know if it's going to work or not. I feel okay. I think that the testing of the sugar will take some time. I go for every 3 months or so. But it's a resolution that might have been a little difficult for a couple of days, but now I've gotten used to it. So my last meal is at 6:30, 7 o'clock. And after that, I don't take any snacks before going to sleep, even if I'm hungry. And in the morning, I don't have anything until about 9 o'clock. So it's about a 14-hour distance. So this is the first resolution. My second resolution was that I could not remember the Brahmananda Valli of Taittiriya Upanishad by heart. And I've been kind of thinking about it for a while. And so for the last year or so, I take up something that I repeat in the morning so I can remember it. So when I was starting the class on Purusha Suktam, I decided a few months prior to it that I must know it by heart. If I'm teaching it, I should also know it by heart. And I did. So it's pretty much done. Then after that, I decided that the Brahmananda Valli is something that I've studied, I've taught, and so on. And I used to pretty much remember it at one time, but I didn't now. I'm going to now learn it by heart. So this is my resolution. I'm about 80 to 90% done. And I think another month or so I will remember by heart. So these are 2 resolutions. On the first New Year, I think my resolution is I'm going to learn more stretching, yoga stretching, because as I grow older, I find that my ability to bend down, put my socks on and so on is being compromised, and I need to really extend my ability. So anyway, this is. So similarly, I'm sure that you have resolutions about dieting or about learning a new language, and so on. This being the case, let us see what the resolutions or tapas is as recommended by the Shastra. This is something that we need to reflect, and I thought that it just occurred to me that in this New Year talk, I will focus on this distinction between what you would call worldly resolutions, laukika tapas, as opposed to Vedantic resolutions, shastrika tapas, Vaidika tapas. Is there a distinction? Should there be a distinction? If so, what is it? So let's get into that. So, for one thing, I decided that even though I'm going to talk about Vaidika tapas, let me see where all in the Shastra the Vaidika tapas is mentioned. So for this, a couple of days ago, I got my reference from two books, which I, by the way, recommend for those of you that want to really, make a collection of important books and so on. And so there are two books. In fact, let's talk about this one first. So this is a book here, which I've had for June of 82. So I got this in June of 82 when I was still at the very end of my career at PRC with Swami Dayanandji. And one of our students had actually brought a lot of books from India, and then he took orders from all of us and so on. So this book is called Samsadarbhihi Nigunta Sahita Dashopanishadaha. It's a long word. It's a fascinating book. It was written by a doctor in Pune who had a very productive life until he retired. And then as soon as he retired, he developed a very severe physical ailment, which he knew he was not going to last very long. So he decided that he's going to write this book. So he actually died before the book was published, but he did all the work. What this does is, this has all the 10 Upanishads, Dashopanishads, Ishavasya, you know all of that, the one that Adi Shankara has commented on. And then he has created a reference called Nighantu. Nighantu. What the Nighantu is, and you can look it up on Wikipedia. Nighantu means some kind of a collection for a specific purpose. And so this Nighantu is, you take a word like tapas, and if you go to tapas, and it is all alphabetically done, it will tell you where all the word tapas comes from amongst the 10 Upanishads. So I did that last night, a couple of days ago actually. So I looked at tapasa, by discipline, by resolutions. Where is it all mentioned? And so I made a list of that. So for example, in the Mundaka Upanishad, all this becomes very relevant to the Vedantic. And before I do that, I should also mention that the other book that I am very fond of, and I study this quite often, is the book on Bhagavad Gita. And it is available from the, what is it called? Gorakhpur. Yeah, Gorakhpur, the very most important set of publications, very inexpensive, easily available. You can go to a railway station and you can get Gorakhpur books. So this book has the Bhagavad Gita with Shankara Bhashya, and at the end of that it has Nighantu for the Gita. This is for the 10 Upanishads, this is one for the Gita. And so here it is called Akaradi Varnanukramaha. And so there also I looked up the references of the word tapasa. Here you can do tapas or tapasa. Tapasa means by tapas. It's a third case. So here, for example, going back to the Dashopanishad book, in the Mundaka Upanishad 118, it says tapasa chiyate brahma. Tapasa chiyate brahma. And again, later on in Mundaka Upanishad, in 315, it says, Satyena labhyaha tapasa hi esha atma samyak jnanena brahmacharyena nityam. Tapasaka. In Taittiriya Upanishad, it comes up very often. Adhihi bhagavo brahmeti tagum ho vacha tapasa brahma vijijñāsasva. Tapasa brahma vijijñāsasya. Same sentiment, same concept as tapasa chiyate brahma, tapasa brahma vijijñāsas. Then in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, this is a very well quoted verse. You'll see this over and over again. It says, Brahmanaha vividishanti yagyena danena tapasa. Tapasa again. So with this, let us see now the distinction between the tapas mentioned in the Shastra and the Laukika tapas that you and I are familiar with, that we invoke every year. What is the distinction and on what basis is this distinction? Let's look into that. So for this, we have to see the distinction between Swarupa and Swabhava. Okay? So the Laukika tapas, the resolution, is connected with and relevant to Laukika tapas, which is Swabhava related. It has to do with something which has a form, has a beginning, as we saw in the meditation, like a bangle. So for example, supposing the bangle is it doesn't happen in gold, but it's supposing you have another metal like silver. In silver, it may get tarnished. And so the discipline of actually cleaning up and the bangle would be called Laukika tapas. And here one interesting thing I would say is that supposing, this is a different example altogether, supposing you have something that needs repainting. Supposing you have a wall which has become so dirty, okay, that from time to time you want to repaint it. So you cover the wall with a new paint, and now the wall with the new paint looks better. This is called Laukika tapas. So similarly here also, when we make supposing we want to make a change in our life, like dieting, etc., or exercising, then we are now changing the nature of our swabhava, things that are dependent on me. So this is the nature of the Laukika tapas. And so I would say one thing, to keep in mind the following thing, which is really a key aspect of our learning, is to make a distinction between acquisition of a gain which is not yet acquired versus the acquisition of a gain which is already there. We've talked about this in all of our classes. Apraptasya praptihi as opposed to praptasya praptihi. So apraptasya praptihi, there, as you know, a gain of something that you currently do not have involves primarily action, karma. It is supported by some knowledge. So the usual example is that suppose you are hungry and you are not comfortable. Hunger is not a comfortable thing. It is a very natural dukkha which has been given by Ishvara, that your whole body needs nourishment in order to survive and to feel good. And so when you are hungry, so now you have to remove your hunger. How do you do that? You do something. If you have the food in your refrigerator, then you have to open the refrigerator, heat it up, cook it, something or the other. Now, this action of appeasing your hunger is supported by your knowledge. What knowledge? You know that by eating this amount of food, your hunger will be appeased. Supposing you didn't even know this. Like in the case of a child, the child is hungry, but it doesn't know how to appease the hunger, so it cries. It doesn't have the knowledge that I need some food, and of course doesn't have the ability to get the food also, that also has to be given and so on. Anyway, the point is that in the case of apraptasya prapti, karma is the mukhya sadhanam and jnanam is amukhya sadhanam, gauna sadhanam. It is secondary, right? Now let us go over to praptasya prapti. In praptasya prapti, it is just the opposite. How? Because there you don't know that you already have it. And so that is the reason for your conclusion that I don't have it. Something is wrong. I don't know where I am. Whereas in fact it is right next to you somewhere. Now, what happens is that in that case, jnanam is the mukhya sadhanam and karma becomes gauna sadhanam. Right? So you still have to do something. I gave you this example that was, I have several examples, but the most recent one was the most relevant to me, that I thought I had lost my credit card until I remembered that I had used it to make a purchase the previous night from my desk. So then so this is jnanam. This is jnanam. Because I knew it for sure. This is called pramanajanya jnanam. Because pramanajanya means that it is valid knowledge that I had used it previously. I was the one that used it. No one was telling me that. Once that happened, a little bit of karma was required, because now it's a question of where exactly it is. Did I put it here? Did I put it there? It was right underneath some papers. So karma was involved, but the main thing was jnana. So with that background, I would say the main distinction between Laukika tapas and Vedantic tapas, Shastrika tapas, is Laukika tapas is for apraptasya praptihi, and Vedantic tapas is praptasya praptihi. This is the main distinction. So what that means is that the way you will do karma, you see, that's the thing. Question is, so I still have the same feeling. The feeling that something is not right with me is the same in both apraptasya praptihi versus praptasya praptihi. Same feeling. I think I gave you this example that there was a colleague of mine that was accompanying me to a delegation to Tokyo when I was working for HP. And he was a very accomplished sales manager. And he thought he had lost his passport. I mean, he thought he lost his passport just before deplaning from the plane. Now, I remember looking at this gentleman who was at that time around 45 years old and a very accomplished sales manager, had several people working for him, had a very solid track record and was being well paid and all of that. How he broke down. And I was just sympathetic to see him. I just assured him, I think you'll be okay. Don't worry about it. We'll find it. He says, no. I'm so stupid. Why do I keep doing this? This is always... I said, here's it. So anyway, the point is that he also had the same feeling as though he had really lost it. It turns out he had not lost it. It was in one of his inner pockets, and I helped him find it. I said, just raise your hand, and I was just checking all these pockets, and it was in there. And his feeling of self-assuredness after a little sheepish feeling of sorry I bothered you and so on came back. What a distinction it was. In the beginning he was saying, my God, I am good for nothing. You almost like wanted to commit suicide. That I don't know what I'm doing in my life. I keep losing things. To now he's just back to his normal stuff. So the point is that the feeling is the same, but karma has to be employed very differently. How? Because if you know that it is really not lost, then the search is much more secure and it is limited. It is going to be around here somewhere. And there is no, this is one of the famous favorite words of Swami Maheshananji, is called Udvega. In Gita also this word comes, Udvigna manaha, Udvega. Udvega means you're not sure. You're not sure. Swami Maheshananji, let's see how much time I have. Swami Maheshananji gave this example about, and this happens to all of us in our lives. So there is a husband and wife, both sitting there. And the child is supposed to come back from school, but he hasn't come back yet. This happens to even now, that sometimes our children have not called us. So my wife would simply say, I wonder what is happening. I wonder if it is, if he's okay. because he hasn't called. He normally calls at this time of the day, and he hasn't called. So in that case, our roles were such that I would say, no, it's okay. He's busy doing something with the other. Don't worry about it. It's okay. But she's very disturbed. So this is what is called udvega. When your mind is disturbed, it is called udvega. So Gita also says udvigna manaha, that you cannot rest. Your mind is just going forward and backwards. So in the case of something which is truly lost, your finding is with udvigna manaha. And if you know that it is there, your karma is now changing its stripes because it is not backed by udvigna manaha. It's karma. There's maybe a little impatience. I'm wasting my time. I know it is around here. No big deal. No big deal. And so here, this is the thing. The Vedantic tapas is totally different. It is, as you know, it is there and you will find it. I need to do some karma to find it. That's it. The karma is not udvigna manaha. Not udvigna manaha. It is really samataha. So samataha means that you are okay with it. You are busy finding it, but it will be okay. This is the distinction between Vedantic tapas and Laukika tapas. In Laukika tapas, you are not sure whether you are absolutely sure that whatever you are doing is not going to last forever. You are sure of that, even while you are doing it. Dieting also, when you don't know how long it's going to take. And then you also know that most people that diet also fall back on the pre-diet. So you have all those worries, everything is still there. Vedantic tapas is very different because it is based on an understanding of your swarupa rather than the swabhava. And so here, one interesting thing, the question is it really my swarupa? Because in the case of my finding the credit card, I was already knowledgeable that the credit card is around here. Instead of my calling up everybody and saying, did I leave my card there? Did I leave my card there? It is here. But in the case of my finding that I am okay, I am not born, I am not going to die, where is the proof? Where's the proof? So here, our Shastra, in the more advanced versions of it, says that our doubts about the validity of who I am is called samshaya. Samshaya. Samshaya means doubt. Okay? Samshaya means doubt. Is of one of two kinds. Samshaya is one of two kinds. One is called pramana samshaya and one is called prameya samshaya. Pramana samshaya is my doubt about who is telling me that I am okay. Where is the pramana? It is called pramana samshaya. So I don't know how, that you are deathless, that you are okay, unaffected by dukkha, sukha and so on, that your nature is nothing but that of Brahman, that you are the Parameshwara. In fact, Jiva is just a superimposition. Your real nature is that of Parameshwara. In fact, it is Parameshwara that you are denying to be yourself. This Upadesha, this Adesha, where is it? Who do I believe? It is called Pramana Samshaya. And so, as they say, that really one of the most important things that can happen in my life, and this is all given by Ishvara, really, there's nothing that I can do about it. Either I have it or it'll take me a long time. It's called Shraddha. You have to be born into a situation, and here even the teacher is very important, because you need to have Shraddha on me. Is this guy really telling, is he pulling something on a wool over my eyes or what? He's saying you are okay, but then who is he to tell me that? Is he authentic? All of this is called Pramana Samshaya. So here, we need to understand. This also comes from understanding. See, the removal of doubts in my mind also comes from my understanding that really this doubt is not valid. The validity is that this is true. What is being said is absolutely true. It comes from an understanding which requires some inquiry. What you have to find is that the Vedas are not generated by human beings. It is written by none other than the very creator Ishvara. And it has been authentic all years, Sanatana Dharma. Not started something new, we've got a new philosophy. This is why Swami Dayanand Ji never uses Vedanta as a philosophy. I find many of his students, including Swami Paramarthananda, because that is just the way he expresses things. I'm not saying that he doesn't understand. But Swami Dayanand Ji will never talk about the Vedanta as a philosophy. He was excellent in understanding the etymology of words. He says it's because if you call it a philosophy, then your mind already has some samshaya, because the nature of philosophy is it's something which is put forth, a concept which has been suggested. This is what the meaning of philosophy is. Knowledge is something different. Knowledge means that either it is true or not true. Is this a apple or a pear? Once you find out that because of the flavor and so it is an apple. This is knowledge. It is not a philosophy. So similarly, you have to find out that the Vedic Adesha, that you are free, is a knowledge. So you have to really inquire into the validity of that. It comes from Shraddha. It comes from Shraddha. Shraddha eva labhate jnanam. Shraddha. So this is what is called, so going back to it, you understand how much time I have? About half hour, okay. I have enough time. So this is what is called Pramana Samshaya. So all of the acharyas, including, this is very well discussed in the Panchadashi and elsewhere, I'm just giving you one example, that really we should have, there are two kinds of samshaya. So we should first cover the Pramana Samshaya. Let's not discuss it, is it true, is it not true? It's done. If I don't understand it, that's a different thing altogether. That comes under Prameya Samshaya. You see what I'm saying? Pramana Samshaya is done, and it comes from inquiry and so on, and so there you have to say, Yukti, Shruti, Anubhava, all of those kinds of filters have to be used. And then you have no samshaya about pramana. That it is then it becomes like, I know that I have my credit card is around here somewhere, but I still haven't found it. Then I switch over to prameya samshaya. And reason I'm saying all this is because Vaidika tapas comes under prameya samshaya removal. Prameya samshaya nivritti is Vaidika tapas. It is Vedantic resolutions. See this? This is the important thing. So what that means is, now the nature of resolutions is the same. Nature meaning the way the resolutions are made is the same. But the very importance of the resolutions are totally different. Because one is with udvigna manaha. The other one is with samataha. That I just have to keep doing this. It is, I will give you another example. That's why I brought up this question about having, a wall which is dirty. And so, when our walls get dirty or scratched or something like this, for a while we try to clean it with something or the other. There are in fact some products that you can do with have some abrasiveness and so on. But then after a while you feel, I need to really repaint it completely. So you put a coat on top of that, right? On a wall, dirty wall, made out of plaster and so on. Now take a golden ornament. So here the golden ornament is actually not the right example because gold never tarnishes. That's the reason why it is gold. You may have some, or even take a golden ornament. Supposing you have a golden ornament that has some caked in dirt on top of that. It's not shiny anymore. It's been sitting out and then has a lot of some dirt that has caked into it and so on. Now, when you do the cleaning of the golden ornaments which has been covered up with dirt, what do? You don't put a paint on it. You remove the covering because you know that by removing the covering of some dirt, the gold will shine by itself. This is what is called praptasya prapti. So this is what is called prameya samshaya nivritti. So now we can begin to summarize the Vedantic tapas, and that the resolutions that we should make the distinctions that we should, the way we should make resolutions, Vedantic resolutions, is that I should remember who I am, but work on removing any doubts about. It was interesting. I think I told you this, shared this story with you many times, because some of these just stick in my mind. It perhaps was in this room itself when once Swami Dayanandji had come. And I had asked him at that time, because our experiences, I'm not any different from you. even though I have had a very solid grounding, but I'm still evolving to make sure that my prameya samshaya is gone. And so I'd asked Swamiji, I said, Swamiji, I know exactly what the Shastra is, but how come I don't see it? And many of you have the same questions and so on. And he had said, remove your doubts. And at that time, the impact of those words were not as strong to me. I'm talking about perhaps 1986, 87, so about 33 years ago. But really speaking, since then, and my study and understanding and teaching classes with you and self-discipline and so on, the impact of those words to remove doubts is now very getting clearer. And it's slowly becoming, it is exactly like if you, supposing you are cleaning up a very valuable jewelry, and at first it looks all caked in and so on, but if you remove a little bit and the gold comes in, you become very encouraged. This is exactly what is happening in my life, that my Vedantic tapas is growing. It's slowly becoming. It's not quite done yet, but that's okay. I am not udvigna manaha. I am not impatient with myself. Swami Maheshananji, excuse me. Swami Maheshananji in this 11th chapter of Panchadashi, marvelous. What a marvelous set of 5 chapters written by Swami. It is written by, could be any one of those, but Swami Vidyaranya is credited with the authorship. Excellent. There he says, and Swami Maheshananji explains it very well, that there is no room for impatience as you are growing into this prameya samshaya nivritti. No room for means that don't waste your time worrying, how come I do? This is exactly what happens. We are all mumukshuhu, and to say, how come I don't have it, this is not working, what am I supposed to do? Don't waste your time, just keep doing it. When Ishvara feels that you are ready, he will just give you that removal of the samshaya right away. It'll happen. So one interesting thing I would point out, I haven't talked about this very much, is that in the case of not finding what you have already lost, and it's around here. So, as you know, there are 2 aspects of making a mistake. One is avarana, which is hiding, and the other one is vikshepa, which is a alternate reality brought up by not by the hiding. That happens in the case of not knowing the reality of a rope. Then you'd imagine a snake. So not knowing the reality is avarana, and imagining a snake is vikshepa. The reason I'm bringing this up is because in the case of not finding your credit card, it is primarily avarana. There's not much vikshepa. Because as soon as I see a credit card, I'll say, that's mine. In the case of our life's experiences, what makes it more challenging is that not only is there avarana, there is vikshepa. What do I mean by that? What it means is, Supposing, I'll change my example a little bit. Supposing you have lost some keys. There's a key that you have lost because you don't know where I put it. This happens to us many times when we have a bunch of keys in a common. They're all there. Car keys, home keys, this, that, the garage keys, etc. So you have a lot of keys, and nothing seems to open. Then someone says, it is there, so just keep doing it. So this is called vikshepa because you look at a key and it looks like the one it should fit, but it doesn't fit. So now you become very impatient. See, if you didn't know and you could see a credit card clearly, then it will be no vikshepa. But if you have some alternate things that are distracting you, is called vikshepa. So the challenge of life is that I feel comfortable with an alternate reality, that I am a jiva. Is a comfortable alternate reality. That I have hands and I've got mind, I'm thinking, I'm receiving, I'm listening. All of this is an alternate reality that I'm quite attached to and I've accepted it. But there is some discomfort that this is not really, I'm not happy about it. But I don't know what else to do. So this finding the reality about my swarupa rather than the swabhava in the same distinction makes it more challenging because I am comfortable with an alternate reality that is hard to break. So this is where the Vedika tapas becomes useful because I have to remind myself constantly. First, I have to be clear about it, reasonably clear about the fact that I am, as the Vedas say, that this is the reality. I have to be clear about it. That is all pramana samshaya. But now, through viveka and vairagya, I have to shift over to prameya samshaya and do it without a udvegamana. This is the karma that I have to do. So now we can say that the tapas that is mentioned in the Shastra is just abhyasa, your own understanding, your own practice that I am okay. And you have to do it quite often because the effects of this alternate reality are very strong for a while, but then it will fade. Slowly it will fade. If I have, this is what is called dhiraha. So dhiraha means, dhira is a very important word. Dhira has two meanings that are both should be understood. One is wisdom. The other one is courage. I must have the wisdom. This comes from viveka. And I must have the courage, which is vairagya. Because this is the problem. We say, Vedanta doesn't really help me. So we keep on asking, how come it's not helped you? Tell me about your lifestyle. Well, I know what it means. I've studied it. I've studied Kena Upanishad, this Upanishad, that Upanishad. But nothing seems to happen. How come nothing seems to happen? Tell me about your life. What did you do today? What did you do? Oh, I was watching this New Year's program last night, and this morning there's some football games that I'm watching. Why are you doing all this? Well, because this is the thing. There's no vairagya. You don't have the ability. So you yourself, we say to I'm not talking about you, but any one of us, we ourselves do not have the ability yet. It will come to do prameya samshaya nivritti. And so the tapas that is mentioned at various places is to do that. This is what is called Vedantic resolution. And I was hoping to get into a little bit more detail on this with you, but barring the fact that we are almost towards the end of this period of discourse, I would say the Bhagavad Gita is full of Vedantic tapas, full of them. If you look at all the chapters, they will just say all of this very well. If you're just looking for perhaps the most effective, well-known, popular set of Vedantic resolutions, then you know very well what I'm talking about. It's the 5 verses of the 13th chapter, starting with verse number 7. And it goes, as you know very well, Amanitvam adambhitvam ahimsa kshantirajyavam acharyopasanam shaucham sthiryam atma vinigraha indriyartheshu vairagyam anahankara evacha janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukkha doshanudarshanam asaktir anabhishvangaha putradara grihadishu nityam cha samachittatvam ishtanishtopapatishu mai cha ananya yogena bhaktiravyabhicharini vivikta desha sevitvam aratirjana samsadi adhyatma jnana nityatvam tattva jnanartha darshanam etad jnanamiti proktam ajnanam tyadatonyatha. It is a very interesting set of verses. It ends with, this is the 13th chapter. It's on the Gita is almost 2/3 over, and he's describing this is called Jnanam Vidya. So here, this is what is meant by the sadhana is equated to sadhya. The means of knowledge is equated to knowledge. Why so? Because if your objective is to find a gold which is shiny, then the sadhana of removing the covering on it becomes the sadhya. This is the distinction between Vedantic resolutions. And so we should choose. We can continue to do dieting and all those kinds of things. It's no issue with that. But really speaking, the ones that we should do are the ones that make my Swarupa very real for me. And so my resorting to all of these Vedantic tapas, and this is not just one places, as I mentioned it, throughout. Nobody would say tapasa chiyate brahma, tapasa brahma vijignyasasva, yagyena danena tapasa, viditva munir bhavati. All these are constantly there. In Kaivalya Upanishad also the same thing. I think there is all over. So with that, I close this session on the Vedantic resolutions that we should look into, and along with the Laukika resolutions, we should give importance to that in our life and understand the full value of it. And by the way, that just reminds me, this 5 verses, Amanitvam, has been summarized in a very important book by Swami Dayanandji called Value of Values. That's what he talks about. So if you're, I think you pretty much know all of that anyway, but in case you are interested, then you can look into that. So with that, I close the class. Om Asato Ma Satkamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityor Ma Amritam Gamaya. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. All right, let's see if anybody has any questions. Sorry for the people in India, this must be quite late for you. Both Shanti Kumar and Punita, Kirsten from Italy, so wonderful to have you. Anita from Germany, so nice. Varun says, please keep doing intermittent fasting. I did that for a few years and it worked amazingly. I still do it when I eat here and there more than usual. Good, excellent, good advice. Keshav says, the biggest delusion of life is that whatever we are doing is for others. During this time of COVID-19, I have learned, understood, believed, and started practicing for a couple of hours a day for the self. Good? Excellent. Chandu Guntakala, Hari Om, could you please send information on 2 books discussed today so we can get it from Amazon? I will try to do that. I think that the one, I think, I'm not sure they'll be available from Amazon. I think they will be. They will be, because what happens is Amazon more and more is facilitating the distribution from third-party sources. So I'm sure that you can find it, but it'll be very expensive. I mean, so that's the issue. If you want to get it from India, if you know, that'd be much better. But if you don't mind, I'll be happy to send it to you. Okay. Vandana says, I really liked when you said not to be discouraged. Yes, yes, absolutely. This is what it is. You know, it is already done. It's a praptasya praptihi. And so the more we refuse to be distracted, the faster you will see. That's what it is all about. Excellent. Thank you so much for all your comments, and I'm happy to share this session on welcoming the new year. All the best to you, and we will see you later. Thank you. Hari Om.